Arcane meant a lot to many different people, myself included. I mean, it was incredible. Being able to see the story, being able to see Piltover and Zaun and the characters. I mean, I myself, I am unfortunately a League of Legends player, but what really got me to League of Legends was the lore of League of Legends, mainly the lore of one character, Echo. And being able to see Echo with beautiful animation, it was incredible to me. But while Arcane was awesome, Arcane had a problem. At least Season 2 had a problem. Many people also believed it had a problem, but no one could really agree on what it was. I'm going to save you some time. I originally made a 58-minute video where I broke down every single point from beginning to finish of Arcane Season 2 and tried to pinpoint exactly where everything went wrong. About 20 minutes into the video, we identified what was wrong, and the last 30 minutes was just me beating a dead horse. So I'm just gonna save you time and I'll give it to you straight. It may not be obvious within the first half of the season, but there is a point in Arcane Season 2 where you notice there is a tangible split where the plot shifts, the way we treat our characters shifts, the theme shifts, and it negatively impacts the story of Arcane as a whole. Let me explain. When Arcane was first announced, I was honestly terrified. I was worried to be similar to a crappy superhero movie, and it'd be like, oh, you see this character? You see, oh, that's our popular IP. Oh, obscure game reference. Oh, look, he's about to do the move. He's about to, oh, that was the move from League of Legends. You know that move? You played League of Legends? But when Season 1 came out, I was absolutely ecstatic to find out that is not what Arcane was, because Season 1 of Arcane was a passion project. It was a love letter to the story of Piltover and Zaun. The characters weren't just characters you've seen before in hit game League of Legends. There were other characters not from the game, and every single character, whether they were from the game or not, was a living part of this greater setting. Individual working pieces of this massive puzzle, this larger story of the battle between two cities. Every action had effects that would ripple across the story and impact the world and our characters. And it carried very heavy themes of police brutality and classism that really pull you in with a heavy heart. But in Season 2, that just kind of fades away over time. It's hard to spot at first, but the further in you get, the more you realize it. There are probably a few certain points in Season 2 where you may have found yourself just waiting for something. Waiting for us to check in on a certain plot point that feels like we abandoned 2 episodes ago, or certain characters, or consequences of certain actions that feels like we definitely would have seen by now. Like, for instance, hey, what's going on with Echo's tree? Actually, what's going on with the firelights? Echo is gone. Do they think he died? I mean, he's on the tree, but how they come to that conclusion? Also, like, is the tree still decaying? Is that still a problem? They were having capacity issues. Is that still an issue? What's going on with the firelights? Are they still helping the people of Zaun? They still seem active at the rally. And speaking of the rally, what about Jinx becoming a symbol? That felt pretty massive, right? Zaun rallying behind Isha first as a symbol, and then Noxus rushing in and arresting everyone and prompting Jinx to go in and save everyone, now truly giving the people of Zaun their symbol in this beautiful moment where they all thank her with a positive physical touch, something very important to Jinx because that forces her to notice this cannot be an illusion. And then Warwick busts in and mauls a ton of people. Jinx sacrifices herself to stay behind and fight Warwick. I mean, this is all massive. What are the people of Zaun going through right now? Are they more fired up than ever? Are the streets panicking about this beast? How many people did Warwick even kill? Are they planning to retaliate against Topside? We won't ever know. After the introduction of Vander being Warwick, we will not go back to check in on Piltover versus Zaun or the people of Zaun or anything like that. We will be moving on to this Ambessa and Victor endgame. And while yes, it was quite clear that Ambessa and Hextech would be endgame in some way since Season 1, it still felt like it would be in the context of Piltover versus Zaun. I mean, until now, every part of Ambessa and Hextech that we've interacted with has been a part of this conflict of Piltover versus Zaun. Yes, Ambessa just inserted herself into the story, but she inserted herself and is exploiting this class conflict for her own goals. She is fanning the flames so she can find things to manipulate to get what she wants. The misuse of the arcane is starting to have repercussions that are starting to show themselves in how it's affecting Zaun. It feels like everything is building up in this massive conflict of Piltover versus Zaun, and each plot point advances that somehow. Each new idea advances that somehow. And then suddenly all of that just stops. Any feeling of these characters being a part of this bigger overarching story of Piltover and Zaun disappears, as now we only focus on our main characters and speed into this new void corruption endgame. Character arcs and conflicts seemingly become resolved in instances, so we can just move on with the story and get to a new conclusion. Jinx and Vi, these sisters have been trying to find each other for a very long time. Vi lost Powder 3 times, the third time being the final time where Jinx declares herself to be Jinx. This was devastating for Vi. Jinx just saw Vi as an enforcer, gassing the people of the Undercity and carrying out police brutality alongside Caitlyn. What the fuck? That's massive for Jinx. She was devastated. She was literally screaming and crying. While we've been able to see Jinx kind of hold some sanity, this threw her into another outburst. And then these two end up fighting. Jinx, once again, is ready to let go of her life, this time at the hands of Vi, saying it always had to be you. And then Vi can't do it, and then they break apart. So the last time they saw each other was very, very tense. So now, in episode 5, Jinx just appears in Vi's room while she's at absolute rock bottom. What's gonna happen now? This seems like something's gonna pop off. Nothing really happens. We get 10 seconds of tension. Jinx says Vander's alive, and they're sisters again. Sure, you can say that they were fighting and bickering, but they were bickering like sisters. It feels like they're just right back to being family. But this doesn't feel as egregious as Caitlyn and Vi. Caitlyn not only disregarded everything Vi had to say and her worries about not becoming an enforcer, the enforcers, killed her parents. Caitlyn didn't really care about that. Vi still, for some reason, betrays all her morals. We don't really get to fully see why. We just kind of get, oh, she's guilty, so she betrays her morals and becomes an enforcer with Kate, gasses the Undercity, beats up people, just for Caitlyn to still spiral out of control, shoot while there's a child in her sights, end up shooting at Vi, and then when Vi finally, says enough is enough and tries to confront her, Caitlyn just hits her in the gut with her gun and leaves her crying and sobbing in the dirt. And this sends Vi into her massive downward spiral. The next time they see each other is when they're trying to save Vander at Victor's commune. What's going to happen here? Absolutely nothing. Vi says cupcake, and they are right back together. What's up, girl? I'm gonna eat you out in the next 2 episodes. That's it. We're right back to working together. Because while everything does kind of seem to exist to give us tension, we're not actually going to use any of that tension because we kind of have to resolve things and get to our new end game pretty quickly. And once we do get to the end, everything just feels strange because we moved into this strange nobody wins in war, both sides were in the wrong, we just have to come together thing. Also, Victor is Void Ultron, by the way. You guys don't know what the Void is, by the way, if you don't know anything about Runeterra and only know these characters from Arcane. But that sets up things for the future of our cinematic universe, so don't worry about it. Basically, the ending just doesn't feel like something that sticks to Arcane itself. I mean, maybe the ending would make sense if the point of Arcane was to just focus on getting our cool characters from the games where we wanted them to be, and then kind of kickstart a Runeterra cinematic universe instead of, actually focusing on Piltover and Zaun, but that's not what Arcane was. So, the conclusion of Arcane left a lot of people tilting their heads. It wasn't bad by any means, it just, as we discussed, didn't really stick. And along with that, all types of viewers, from those of us who know the lore of Runeterra or unfortunately play League of Legends, to those who know nothing about the existing lore or thank God have never touched the game, had a lot of questions. Here's a question. How did Echo even know what was going on when he got back? Did his Jinx meter just go off and he immediately ran to stop her from ending herself? Or did he go all the way back to the Firelights and they updated him? Did he see the tree? What happened to the tree? Forget the tree. What about the fire? Did he meet up with the Firelights? And also, what did Echo and Jinx do after he talked her out of ending herself and talked her about building something new? I could go on about that, but I'll digress. There were a lot of questions. Questions about Mel's arc, how it just felt kind of off to the side over there. Jason Victor's arcs. Why the ambiguous ending with Jinx? You remember all those plot points that seemed really important, they just kind of fizzled out? Where did those go? There were a lot of questions. And so some of the writers started answering these questions. Those of us that have followed the lore of Runeterra for years, being able to sit down and have interviews, or some articles ended up coming out, or some people asking questions through social media. We got a lot of interesting answers, and with each interesting answer, things got more concerning. For example, those of us who know about the existing lore had a lot of questions about how Arcane will actually fit in with pre-existing lore. Like, you don't need to know too much about this, but many characters in stories will still end up happening, but Hextech is very important for those stories. But Arcane says that's gone now, so that cuts a lot out, right? Well, the writers said Hextech actually isn't done. After Arcane, someone will pick it back up. Oh, okay, well, how about Singed? Singed is going to go on to make chemical weapons for Noxus, but he's already made Oriana now, and the ships that were sailing to Noxus, he wasn't even on them. Why would he go to Noxus now that he's made Oriana? Oh, well, you know, he'll get some new motivation, and he'll go and make the weapons. Okay, what about the characters we lost that presumably died? What about their future stories? Well, Jace and Victor are still somewhere. Actually, it's implied, you know, that was a teleportation rune, so they're around somewhere, because, you know, Victor still has to go on to make Blitzcrank, and Jace will still do his stuff. It's weird. Heimerdinger is actually, I'm not even going to put this in question format. Heimerdinger is the funniest one, because Yordles literally can't fucking die. They just respawn in Bandle City. Which, if you only know these characters from Arcane, you have no clue what a Yordle is or what Bandle City is. But, don't worry about it, I guess. Basically, we started to kind of realize why almost everything in the conclusion of Arcane, at least for Piltover and Zaun, feels like it doesn't really stick. That's because it literally doesn't. Every conclusion we got for these character arcs, or the city itself, are kind of temporary. We just kind of needed a conclusion to wrap up the show. None of this is actually like a solid state, because we need to end this and carry it on for the lore, but it's not going to be our main focus moving forward, except for maybe Melon and Bessa. And technically Jinx, which is weird because she had like a double fake out. Like, yeah, you know, throughout all of season 1 and especially season 2, I've just kind of like, you know, tried to throw my life away. I haven't really had that much self-preservation, and now I'm about to try to end myself. But now Echo's here, and he's going to talk to me about, you know, building something new, and, you know, maybe I will learn to value my own life, and maybe I actually will continue to move forward and build something new. Psych, I'm actually going to sacrifice myself to save my sister because Warwick is still alive for some fucking reason. So yeah, Jinx is dead now. Actually, double psych, she's not actually dead. She faked her death, and it's implied that she's moving away because she's walking away from it all. Okay, sure. A lot of things felt strange and didn't make sense at first, but there's more. Besides, you know, the way Arcane fits into lore, there's been a few statements in other interviews made by writers like Christian Link and Amanda Overton on certain aspects or decisions in Arcane that feel very wrong, I guess is the word. For example, the fact that Vi and Powder's parents were killed by enforcers felt like important character decisions that really immersed them in the world. It showed the police brutality that occurs, it showed how this class conflict is affecting children of the Undercity. It sticks with these characters and shapes them into who they are. Vi, while she still wants to protect her family, she's also bitter and determined to get back at Topside and make this city respect them. And then there's Powder, who literally sees the enforcers as monsters. The show starts with her hallucinations over an enforcer's face. She is hallucinating them as monsters because a little girl watched the cops kill her fucking parents. The fact that enforcers killed Vi and Jinx's parents is very important for the story and its overall themes. So it's really weird when in an interview, Amanda Overton stated the main reason Vi and Jinx's parents were killed by enforcers was actually more to add tension to Vi and Caitlyn's slow burn, because, you know, Caitlyn's an enforcer, so what if an enforcer killed Vi's parents? That's drama. Yep. That doesn't sound right at all. I mean, Arcane has focused on this overall story, the world of Piltover and Zaun, not just these characters and their funny ships, because these characters aren't the main endgame focus. It's the theme and the plot of this overall story, the class conflict, right? Over time, a lot of us begin to realize this might not have ever been the case. it might be the case that Arcane was never really as class conscious as we thought it was, and it was destined from the start to just be a popular character endgame, let's all hold hands and come together, we were both in the wrong, right? Type plot. And looking at season 2 through that lens, things make more sense, unfortunately. Why we eventually just stopped checking in on the people of Zaun in this conflict. Why certain characters in season 2 seem to exist solely for the development of main characters. Why it feels like the entire theme and plot of Arcane shifted from what we thought it was. Jinx becoming a symbol. It felt like something massive, something important for not just her arc, but the entire story as a whole, something important for the people of Zaun. But as soon as Jinx gets the recognition of being a symbol, it is dropped, flat on its face, and is not looked again. That is because we got all we wanted out of it. We got the development we needed for Jinx, we got something that fuels Caitlyn's anger, and we got something we can use to speedrun Vi trusting Jinx again. Boom, that is gone now. Caitlyn's rampage throughout Zaun, carrying out police brutality in the streets, gassing the city with the Grey. You know, the Grey that is responsible for multiple illnesses and defects in Zaunite children, including Victor. You know, the Grey, that you don't know this, but will eventually be used as inspiration for chemical weapons that will go on to demolish Mother Nature herself. She's using that on the people of Zaun, which also goes against like the one good thing her mother seemed to do for the Undercity. So like, imagine what Caitlyn's father might have to say about that. Or better yet, imagine what Echo would say or do when he sees that Caitlyn's doing this. Even better, imagine what Echo would say or do when he sees Vi is an enforcer who is a part of this now. No, the result of all of that only is to add tension between our triangle of main characters, Jinx, Caitlyn, Vi. All other effects or possible consequences will just kind of fizzle out. How about Vi betraying her morals and becoming an enforcer? You know, remember the enforcers that killed her parents? She's wearing that uniform now, which is something she was actively opposed to. That feels pretty massive. We won't know how Echo or the people of Zaun feel about this. Hell, we won't even truly take time to see how Vi herself feels about this. Almost all of her motivation in the beginning of season 2 was just, I love you and I feel guilty. So, yep, I am with you, Caitlyn. Let's go gas the Undercity. Echo, as a character who is very, very tied to this class conflict. His focus is on saving people, protecting the people of Zaun, fighting for a better future for Zaun. When we first see him, the people of Zaun are crowding into the Firelight Sanctuary, looking for a place to hide from the chaos. The Firelights are starting to have a capacity issue. The tree, their sanctuary, is dying. He goes to topside to try to get some answers, and we get some beautiful exchanges about the environmental side of this class war. The people of Zaun are suffering because the misuse of Hextech from the topside. And we get this beautiful quote from Echo where he says, "You say we're in this together, but whenever it rains, we're the ones to get wet." None of that will go anywhere. Echo will immediately get absorbed into the Arcane, and by the next time Echo is involved with the main story after his beautiful episode in the other reality, we've already dropped Piltover vs. Zaun. We won't talk about the tree, we won't talk about the people of Zaun, we won't talk about the environmentalism of the class war, because, we're too focused on not becoming a void hive mind now. How about Maddie? Do you remember that character? You remember Maddie? Her entire existence is strictly to show how Caitlyn is coping with the loss of Vi, and to basically just add drama and tension, which again won't really go anywhere because we just kind of drop all tension from Caitlyn and Vi because Vi just calls a cupcake in the commune and everything's resolved. But once Maddie's, slept with Caitlyn and there's been drama, she serves literally no purpose. So fuck it. She's a twist villain now for the final arc. She has always been a Noxian. That's interesting. Actually, no, because that never goes anywhere either. She just dies immediately. If anything, her being a twist villain and being a Noxian the whole time was just a really convenient way to advertise Mel becoming a champion in League of Legends in the far future, and to get rid of Maddie since, we don't really need her for tension anymore, and also we're not really going to add any more drama or try to resolve any of this drama, because we already reached Caitlyn Vi endgame. So get out of here. Go. Bye now. How about Loris? Loris's entire character exists for Vi. He exists to look like Vander and for us to see Vi pushing him away through her hitting rock bottom montage. That's it. That's quite literally, he probably has the least function of all characters so far, honestly, which honestly does make sense considering out of the main trio, Vi basically doesn't really get any focus or development on her own entire character. She gets a montage of her hitting rock bottom, which is immediately forgotten about because now she's with Jinx again. But honestly, her entire character arc just feels like it's centered around Kate Vi shipping. And then we do get a little breath of fresh air when she's, you know, away from Caitlyn finally. Just for that to, you know, go right back to her. So since at the end he's already, you know, fulfilled what little purpose he had, we can just, you know, like kill him off in like the climactic battle, you know, because we need more drama and we like really got to drive, you know, home how dramatic this climax is. And he literally doesn't fucking matter as a character. So like we can just kill him. How about Isha? Yes, Isha. A child forced to work as a miner for the out-of-control Chem Barons. She's saved by Jinx. She idolizes Jinx. Not just the person, but the idea, the symbol Jinx represents. She carries out acts in the name of Jinx, and when Jinx won't show up to the rally, she rallies the people in Jinx's stead. Surely these actions will have massive story implications, or at least through this character we will get an important look at what Jinx as a symbol means to the people of Zaun, or the children of Zaun. No. While she does build up to Jinx becoming a symbol, remember, that is promptly dropped flat on its face. After that, she just kind of like exists. Like, oh, she's part of the family now while we're saving Vander. It gives Jinx some, you know, passive development until it's time to just fucking die and give her a big character development. She was doomed to do this from the start. And the funny thing is, we all knew it. I remember when we started seeing screenshots of Isha before she actually appeared in Arcane, and everyone was like, holy shit, this character is definitely going to die for Jinx, right? Surely that won't happen in Arcane. That's exactly what happened in Arcane. She was doomed to do this from the start. Jinx needed something more to be thrust into her final form. Current character arc wasn't enough, so Isha will be used as a catalyst. Isha existed to draw as many parallels to Powder as physically possible, and then die for Jinx character development. Shit, at least her death felt like it had purpose. I mean, the scene was done very beautifully. I will admit, while I was watching the scene, I was really confused, and I was like, there's no way we're actually doing this, right? Like, she's just like actually gonna die. It kind of felt like a fake out because it's like, there's no way, like, it's so obvious that she was gonna die for Jinx character development. This is actually how it's going to happen. That's actually how it happened. But her death scene was done very beautifully. And you know, I could go on and on. Themes of police brutality, you know, and Mbessa, an imperialist warlord coming in from a nation built on war into Piltover and Zaun to fan the flames of this class conflict so she can get what she wants. None of that. What we actually thought the plot and themes of Arcane were never truly the plot and themes of Arcane. The real focus of Arcane was just to build up the characters from hit game League of Legends, and any semblance of the class conflict, police brutality, very important themes, they were just plot devices or decoration, or something used to add tension or development to our main characters. But saying that also feels wrong. It makes sense to come to that conclusion after watching Season 2, which truly did go the route of skirting around the class conflict and going to this weird ending that felt more about putting our main characters in where we want them to be and building up our future shows. Using this lens to look at Season 2 makes everything from the character decisions to the plot and theme decisions make sense. This lens does not work for Season 1, however. That is because Season 1 does focus on the class conflict. It focuses on the story of Piltover and Zaun. Remember, Season 1 of Arcane was a love letter to not just popular League of Legends characters, but the entire story of Piltover and Zaun. There is a clear disconnect between Arcane Season 1 and Season 2. And if you don't believe me, I want you to go rewatch Arcane Season 1 and Arcane Season 2 together, straight through. The difference will smack you in the face. This new endgame, these strange new focuses and decisions were not in mind when Season 1 was being made. At first, when I was working on this video, I came to the conclusion Arcane's ending suffered because the creators had to make a decision. Take this existing world and adapt it as a type of origin story and leave things open-ended so they could have their canon story, or make a conclusion for an existing story that has no conclusion and try to tie things up in a neat little bow. And their downfall was that they tried to have both. forcing a conclusion to Arcane so they could end the show to get to their other places, while still leaving things open-ended with their ambiguous endings so they could fit it into the canon lore somehow and still have it for later. But there was more to that. I don't think Arcane was always meant to choose both endings. I think after the success of Arcane Season 1, the focus of Arcane was then shifted. From what once was a love letter in which we didn't care about prophets, became an opportunity for an entire cinematic universe of all of Runeterra. This shift in priorities for the characters and the themes weren't something that was planned from the start, but something that reeks of something executive, if you know what I mean. For example, the writing team of Season 1 consisted of a large array of different writers, all working together to make sure everything was perfect, because again, Arcane was a passion project. But for Season 2, the writing team was downsized to 3 writers, and every decision came down to one person, that being Christian Link. In the interviews with Christian Link, we can see in his choices, the overall class conflict and story of Zaun and Piltover were not the main focus. This is where the split comes from, and I'm not just saying it was Christian Link himself. This was probably a larger executive decision. Remember, Arcane Season 1 wasn't necessarily an overwhelming profit, but it was successful in the sense that they realized they had an opportunity to expand to all of Runeterra, which is why it was announced that up next are the regions of Noxus, Ionia, and Demacia. Absolutely massive regions in the stories of Runeterra as a whole. And looking at Arcane Season 2, you can see that clear as day. At first, I was extremely confused why we were seeing things like Void and hints of this celestial feel with Victor in the endgame of Arcane, cause if you don't know anything about Runeterra, you don't know what the Void is or anything about Targon or Celestials. To be fair, in Arcane Season 1, Mel's magic did feel a little celestial, and it kind of felt like a little wink wink nudge nudge if you know type thing, which was fine. But the entire conclusion to all of Arcane being we have to stop ourselves from becoming a Void hive mind? Also, how about Mel's character changing drastically and us getting so much Noxus at the end of Arcane? This might be a stretch, but at least for me, I think we saw a lot of Noxus as Arcane was concluding than we did, of actual Piltover and Zaun. We get to see Ambessa training Caitlyn in what looks like their traditional ways, while Rictus is charging up his Cainic Rookery, which is interesting that he has that. It feels like Ambessa and her party have spent a lot or at least some time in Ionia, which is pretty important. Singed interacting with Noxians. That won't have any future implications, surely. We get this cool scene of Ambessa burying Rictus, giving us another glimpse into Noxian traditions. This awesome fight of Ambessa versus Kate and Mel. Lane swaps, am I right? Where her soldiers stand and honor the battle. Even when Ambessa falls, her soldiers saluted, showing the culture that surrounds strength and battling in Noxus. The Black Rose extracting knowledge from Ambessa and Mel betraying them. They still got some information that might be how they find out about Singed. Surely that won't have implications for later.
Hey guys, editing Devad here. I basically go on for another 5 minutes trying to give a lot of points to back my case of why I feel like the ending of Arcane Season 2 spends more time setting up Noxus and other regions than it does actually concluding Piltover and Zaun, and why it feels like things with the Noxians just feel so separate and kind of strange. But as I was writing this, the newest trailer for League of Legends season whatever we're on came out, and all that stuff that was happening with the Noxians that felt kind of disconnected continued straight into that, which just kind of proves the point, I guess. I mean, LeBlanc even in the trailer says Piltover was a lesson, Vladimir. My next move needs to be bolder. It literally is just setting up our future shows, which there's nothing wrong with setting up your future shows. It's just disappointing that's the route we took. But yeah. I digress.
In conclusion, you can really see how the ending of Arcane, or even the entire second half of Season 2, rather than focus on the story and themes that we've known all the way through, it pivots into setting up what's to come. What's to come with Noxus, what's to come with our future shows, which is really disappointing. But maybe now that Riot has shifted their focus and they know what they want, things won't feel so drawing now. I'm pretty hopeful for the future, but I'm also a little scared. I'm gonna spare you on the details of why I'm worried for now, but I would love to talk about it. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know and I will definitely make another video about what is next or where we could go after Arcane. Also, let me know if you agree with my points in this video or if you completely disagree with me and think I'm delusional. Honestly, because I would love any excuse to talk about the lore of Runeterra and these characters and these stories. basically anything about League of Legends besides actually playing League of Legends. I'm already Emerald, alright? I don't need to fall any further. But yeah, I'll take any excuse to talk about the lore of Runeterra and Noxus and Demacia and Ionia. So like the video or comment to tell me you guys do want that video, and subscribe to me so you can actually catch that video when I release it. But until then, I'll see you guys.